Family kicked me off the $5,000 Alaskan cruise my sister wanted. So I evicted her and hubby from MY Free House. Now their calls are blocked, and they're desperate. You're ruining us. It's funny, the things you get used to. For me, it was the background of being second best, or maybe just second. My name's Liam. I'm an electrician, a damn good one too, if I do say so myself. I can wire a house blindfolded, troubleshoot a short in a hurricane, and there's a certain satisfaction in that, you know? Bringing light to darkness, literally. But in my family, my practical skills, the calluses on my hands, they were always a bit quaint. Quaint compared to my older sister, Chloe. Chloe was destined for greatness, or so we were constantly told. She was an aspiring influencer, a lifestyle blogger, a brand visionary. Lots of fancy titles that mostly seemed to involve taking artfully arranged photos of avocado toast and captioning them with inspirational quotes she'd found on the internet. My parents, especially Mom, ate it up. "Oh, Liam, that's nice you fixed the community center's wiring," Mom would say, her eyes already drifting. "Did you see Chloe's latest reel? It's about mindfulness and artisanal kombucha. She's got such vision." I remember one time, I was maybe 10. I'd won the school science fair, built this whole miniature smart house system, all wired up with little LEDs and sensors. I was beaming, came home with my blue ribbon, and Mom was on the phone, practically vibrating. She did. Yes, Chloe got the lead in the school play. The Fairy Princess. Oh, we always knew she was a star. My science project sat on the kitchen counter for a week, gathering dust, before Dad quietly moved it to the garage. That was the rhythm of our lives. The only one who ever really got me, was Grandpa Arthur. Mom's dad. He was a contractor, self-made, built his business from the ground up with his own two hands. He respected honest work. His house, this solid old place on Maple Street, was my sanctuary. His study, all dark wood and leather-bound books on engineering, carpentry, and surprisingly, philosophy, was where I felt most at home. Glitter fades, Liam, he'd tell me, his voice raspy from years of sawdust and unfiltered cigarettes. Real value is built, not just shown off. Remember that, boy. When Grandpa Arthur passed a couple of years back, it hit me hard. The Will reading was a somber affair, at least for me. Chloe, ever the performer, managed a few delicate dabs at her eyes before perking up considerably when her inheritance was announced. $75,000. "Seed money for my empire," she declared to Mom and Dad, who beamed as if she'd just cured cancer. Mark, Chloe's then boyfriend, now husband, who was already firmly attached to her hip and her ambitions, nodded vigorously. "She's going to be huge," he'd said, his eyes practically shining with reflected glory. Then came my part. To my grandson, Liam Parker, the lawyer read, "I leave my house at 17, Maple Street, including all its contents and the surrounding property." A stunned silence. Then Chloe let out a little titter. "Oh, that old place? Goodness, Liam, what will you even do with it? It's so vintage." She gave Mark a look. "You'll probably just sell it for parts, right?" Mom patted my arm. "Well, it's a thought, dear. Practical." A few months later, the practicality of it took a sharp turn. Chloe and Mark, now married and full of big plans for Chloe Co. Global, or whatever she was calling her brand that week, announced their current apartment was creatively stifling and untenable for building a global brand. They needed, apparently, a more authentic and spacious environment. Guess whose house fit the bill? At the next Sunday dinner, Mom launched the offensive, carefully orchestrated. "Liam, darling, Chloe and Mark have such a wonderful opportunity, but they need a stable base. Your grandfather's house, it's just sitting there. They could live there, temporarily, of course," Dad chimed in, avoiding my gaze. "Save up, get their business off the ground." Aunt Carol, Mom's sister and the family's chief busybody and opinion enforcer, was conveniently present. "Oh, Liam, it's the sensible thing," she cooed, patting Chloe's hand. "Chloe needs support. She works so incredibly hard. Think of the family brand. Grandpa Arthur would have wanted you to help family." Chloe smiled sweetly. "It would only be for 6 months, maybe a year at most. Just until my first few brand deals really take off." Mark nodded, already looking like he owned the place. They immediately started talking about upgrading Grandpa's house. Chloe mentioned wanting to paint Grandpa Arthur's cherished darkwood study, the one that smelled of old books and pipe tobacco, a bright, influencer-friendly white. A sharp pang went through me, a sense of violation. But the collective weight of their expectations, the years of conditioning to just go along, to not make waves, it was too much. I mumbled something about it being okay, as long as it was temporary. They moved in the following weekend. 6 months of temporary stretch towards 9. My house, Grandpa Arthur's house, had become Chloe and Mark's personal content studio and crash pad. The influencer-friendly white hadn't happened yet, mostly because they couldn't agree on the perfect shade and then got distracted by a new vision. But my peace and quiet, that was painted over in a hurry. Then came the big announcement. It was Mom and Dad's 30th wedding anniversary later in the year, and Chloe, during one of her increasingly rare visits to our parents' actual house, since she now had a much grander one to occupy, unveiled her master plan. A luxury Alaskan cruise, she trilled, eyes wide with feigned generosity. For the whole family. 7 nights, glaciers, whale watching. Think of the memories. Think of the content. The price tag she eventually revealed was a cool $5,000 per person. My jaw nearly hit the floor. My parents, however, were ecstatic. Later, at a smaller family gathering to discuss the logistics, which mostly meant Chloe dictating terms, Mom looked directly at me, her voice carrying that familiar edge of expectation. This cruise will be a testament to our family success, Liam. And we expect everyone to contribute their share to make it happen. It's your chance to show you're truly part of this family, to really step up. Chloe, sitting beside her, offered a little smirk that just screamed, "Yeah, little bro, let's see if you can hang." Something in me, that small, stubborn part that hadn't quite been extinguished by years of being overshadowed, flared up. I'd show them. I'd pay my way. I'd be part of this core family memory, even if it bankrupted me. So the grind began. I took every overtime shift my supervisor at A1 Electric offered. Weekend call-outs, late nights wrestling with ancient wiring in crumbling buildings, emergency repairs in the pouring rain. I did it all. I started picking up side jobs, rewiring kitchens for cash, fixing fuse boxes for friends of friends. My hands were perpetually calloused, usually smudged with grease or drywall dust. Sleep became a luxury I couldn't often afford. My own small apartment felt less like a home and more like a place to briefly collapse before the next shift. I mentioned the financial stretch to Dave, one of the older electricians at work, a guy who'd seen it all and wasn't afraid to say what he thought. He was maybe in his late 40s, early 50s, with a face like a road map and eyes that missed nothing. $5,000, huh, he said, wiping grease from his hand with a rag that had seen better decades. He paused, then shook his head slowly. Family and money. Kid, it's like oil and water if one side ain't honest. Got a cousin, see? Sweet-talked my savings out of me 20 years ago for some sure-thing business venture. Still waiting on that sure thing to pay out. He looked me square in the eye. You getting anything in writing about this cruise, or what they owe you for staying at your place? I mumbled something about it being family, too formal. Dave just grunted. Famous last words, kid. Famous last words. Meanwhile, back at what was legally my house, Chloe and Mark were living their best influencer life, rent-free. The utility bills, which were forwarded to my apartment, skyrocketed. I come by occasionally with notice to pick up mail or check on things, and it was like walking into a different dimension. New decorative pillows I hadn't bought, strange aesthetic clutter for Chloe's backdrops, and the constant, low-level chaos of 2 people who treated the space like a combination hotel and film set. One Saturday, I went over to fix a flickering light in what used to be Grandpa's workshop. They'd claimed it as Mark's editing suite. I found a couple of my best Klein screwdrivers, specialty tools I'd saved up for, lying on the floor, one with a chipped tip. Mark, when I pointed it out, just shrugged. "Oh yeah, man, sorry. Was trying to pry open this old crate for a prop. Snapped a bit, I guess. No offer to replace it, just a flippant, my bad." Then came Fifi, a tiny, yappy, ridiculously expensive designer puppy, a Pomsky, or some such nonsense. They'd acquired her without a word to me, of course. Chloe just posted a picture of it on Instagram captioned, "Welcoming the newest member to our little family. Hashtag dogmom, hashtag influencer life." When I next visited, the implication was clear. Fifi was now part of the package, and by extension, somehow my responsibility too, when they were too busy creating. "She's great for my engagement numbers," Chloe chirped when I looked less than thrilled at the tiny creature currently yapping at my steel-toed boots. "You don't mind, do you, Liam?" I minded. I minded a lot. But I kept my mouth shut, kept my eyes on the prize, the Alaskan cruise. The symbol I desperately hoped of my finally being seen, of being valued, of belonging. The sacrifices, I told myself, would be worth it. Months bled into each other, fueled by caffeine, sheer willpower, and the dwindling numbers in my savings account as I transferred chunk after chunk to Chloe. She was coordinating all the bookings, she said, getting us the best group rate. The final $5,000 payment left my account with a painful whoosh, but also a surge of relief. I'd done it. I'd actually managed to scrape together the small fortune. I even allowed myself a small fantasy. Standing on the deck of that ship, the cold Alaskan air on my face, my family beside me, maybe for once feeling like an equal. I bought a new, warm jacket, nothing fancy, but sturdy. A week before departure, Mom called a special pre-trip family dinner. My stomach did a little flip of anticipation. Maybe they were going to give us our travel documents or share some exciting details. I even picked up a small, tasteful photo album as an early anniversary gift for them, thinking they could fill it with pictures from a cruise. The atmosphere in my parents' house that evening was off. Mom was overly effusive. Dad was unusually quiet, staring intently at his mashed potatoes. Chloe arrived late with Mark, both looking a little too polished, a little too rehearsed. My internal alarm bells, usually pretty dormant when it came to family, started to faintly chime. We sat down to dinner. Small talk skittered around the table, brittle and forced. Then, as dessert was served, Mom's celebration trifle. Chloe cleared her throat, a practiced, sorrowful look settling on her face. "So," she began, her voice dripping with faux solemnity, "there's something Mark and I, and Mom and Dad, need to discuss with you, Liam." My fork clattered against my plate. "As you know," she continued, "my brand, my business, it's on the cusp of something truly massive. But these things, they're delicate. And there's been a rather critical, unforeseen business crisis." She paused for dramatic effect, glancing at Mom, who nodded encouragingly. "A key supplier for my new, ethically sourced, organic wellness merch line. Well, they suddenly became very aggressive. Demanded a huge upfront payment, otherwise they'd pull the entire contract, jeopardize the whole launch." I just stared at her, the trifle turning to ash in my mouth. "Supplier? What does that have to do with—" "Liam, please," Mom cut in, her voice sharp. "Let Chloe finish. This is serious." Chloe gave a martyred sigh. To save everything, Mark and I had to act fast. We had to reallocate all available emergency funds. Immediately, she looked at me then, her eyes shining with unshed, crocodile tears. "And Liam, your $5,000, it was the most liquid asset we had access to. We had to use it to cover the supplier payment." The room tilted. My cruise money, I managed, my voice barely a whisper. "But that was for the cruise. I paid my share." "Liam, don't be so literal," Chloe snapped, her composure cracking for a second before she smoothed it back into sorrow. "We always said it was a contribution to the family's major endeavors. And my brand is a major family endeavor. It benefits all of us. You wouldn't want to see me fail, would you? After all the work I've put in." Mom chimed in, her voice rising, a theatrical tremor in it. "She hasn't slept in days, Liam. The stress she's under, the pressure. The least you can do is be supportive and understanding." Dad finally looked up from his plate, his expression miserable. "It's just unforeseen circumstances, son. Bad timing." Mark, ever the supportive husband, nodded sagely. "It's just bad timing, man. We had to prioritize Chloe's future. We thought you, of all people, would understand sacrifice for the greater good of the family." "So what does this mean?" I asked, though a cold, sick certainty was already crystallizing in my gut. Chloe sighed again, as if explaining something to a particularly dense child. Well, obviously, we can't get your portion refunded now. It's far too late. And we certainly can't cancel on Mom and Dad for their special anniversary trip. So, she spread her hands. We all discussed it, and it just makes the most logical sense for you to sit this one out. Sit this one out? I echoed, numb. We'll bring you back a nice souvenir, she offered, as if that made everything okay. And besides, Mom added brightly, a little too brightly, someone needs to stay and look after Fifi. The poor little thing can't go into a kennel. She'll be company for you, Liam. You wouldn't make little Fifi homeless while we're gone, would you? The casual cruelty of it, the blatant gaslighting, the way they dangled that ridiculous puppy as some sort of consolation prize or emotional blackmail. It was breathtaking. I looked from Chloe's carefully arranged, sympathetic face to my mother's brittle enthusiasm, to my father's downcast eyes, to Mark's blandly agreeable nod. Not one of them could meet my gaze with any genuine empathy. I pushed my chair back. The anniversary gift, the photo album, felt like a lead weight in my jacket pocket. I have to go, I mumbled and walked out, their calls of Liam, don't be like that, and we thought you'd understand, echoing behind me. Understand? Oh, I understood perfectly. For the first time in my life, I saw them all with blinding, painful clarity, and what I saw made something inside me snap. The week that followed was a blur of quiet, simmering rage. I went to work, did my job on autopilot, but beneath the surface, a plan was forming, solidifying with each condescending text message Chloe sent about pre-trip excitement and last-minute packing. She even had the audacity to ask if I could pop over and water their plants at my house while they were gone. The day of their departure, I played my part. I drove to my parents' house, endured the forced cheerfulness, even managed a tight-lipped smile as they loaded their expensive luggage into the airport shuttle. Chloe gave me a patronizing hug. Try not to be too bored without us, little bro, she chirped. We'll send postcards. And remember, Fifi needs her special gluten-free kibble twice a day. The moment the shuttle turned the corner, vanishing from sight, I pulled out my phone. My first call was to Dave. They did it, I said, no preamble. They're gone, and I'm done. It's about damn time, Dave's gruff voice came back. Figured as much. Got a number for you. Sarah Mingle. She's a lawyer, specializes in property stuff, tenant disputes. Sharp as a tack, no BS. Call her. Now, tell her I sent you. I called Sarah immediately. She listened patiently as I laid out the whole saga. The rent-free living, the broken promises, the cruise money, the fact that there was no formal lease agreement. She asked a few pointed questions, then said, Mr. Parker, given they pay no rent, have established no formal tenancy beyond verbal permission, which they've clearly abused, and are now absent for a significant period on a pre-planned vacation. You are well within your rights in this state to consider their belongings abandoned and reclaim your property. However, let's do this by the book to avoid any blowback. She advised on the exact, legally defensible steps, formal notice if possible, or secure removal of belongings to storage if they were already gone, meticulous documentation. My next calls were to a bonded moving company and a 24-hour locksmith, both highly recommended by Dave. Yes, short notice and weekend rates were brutal, but the surge of grim satisfaction was priceless. I drove to Maple Street to my house. Walking through those rooms, seeing their clutter, Chloe's half-packed content creation kits, Mark's gaming setup, Fifi's pink monstrosity of a dog bed, it all felt like a violation. I started in the master bedroom, methodically packing everything. Designer clothes I knew Chloe couldn't really afford. Mark's collection of ironic graphic tees, makeup, shoes, electronics, even the damn gluten-free kibble. I took photos of every box, every room, before and after. The movers were efficient and discreet. Within hours, every trace of Chloe, Mark, and Fifi was gone. I directed them to a secure storage unit I'd rented, paid for the first month, and arranged for the key and access details to be mailed to Chloe at our parents' address. Then the locksmith arrived. The whir of his drill, changing the locks on every door, was the sweetest music I'd heard in years. Grandpa Arthur's house was finally mine again. A week later, they returned, tanned and smug. I wasn't there, of course. I was in my own apartment, phone on silent, waiting. It didn't take long. My phone screen lit up like a Christmas tree. Missed calls, voicemails, texts. First, confusion from Mark. Liam? He isn't working at Maple ST. You changed the porch light bulb? Or something. Then, indignation from Chloe. Liam, what the hell? Why can't we get in the house? Are you seriously ignoring my calls? Then, the public meltdown. My neighbor, Mrs. Henderson, a sweet old lady who'd known Grandpa Arthur for years, called me later. Oh, Liam dear, she whispered into the phone. There was such a to-do on your porch. Your sister was, well, she was making quite a scene, shouting about her rights and her poor homeless puppy. Her husband was trying to shoulder the door open. I was worried. Turns out, just as Sarah the lawyer had prepped me for, Chloe had indeed thrown a world-class tantrum. I'd half expected it, and even left a discreetly placed security camera overlooking the porch. The footage was epic. Chloe screaming, Mark red-faced and fumbling. Then the arrival of the local police cruiser. I'd calmly called the non-emergency line when Mrs. Henderson first alerted me to the commotion, reported a disturbance and individuals attempting to forcibly enter my property. The officers, after checking my preemptively provided ownership documents and the notice I posted, as per Sarah's advice, detailing where their belongings were stored, calmly informed Chloe and Mark that it was a civil matter, they couldn't force entry, and they should probably go pick up their stuff from storage. The look on Chloe's face, even on grainy security footage, was pure, unadulterated humiliation. The digital onslaught intensified. Voicemails filled with accusations, threats, and demands. Texts accusing me of theft, cruelty, insanity. I let them pile up. Then came a call from my dad's number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me. Liam, son. His voice was hesitant, strained. I should have said something sooner. Your mother and Chloe, they get carried away sometimes. This isn't right. What happened with the trip, with your money? For a split second, a tiny, painful flicker of hope ignited in my chest. Maybe. Then Mom's voice, sharp and furious, erupted in the background. What are you telling him, Richard? Tell him he's a heartless monster. Tell him he's tearing this family apart. The line went dead. The flicker of hope died with it, replaced by a cold, hard resolve. I blocked their numbers. All of them. The silence that descended after I blocked their numbers was profound. It was the sound of chains breaking. In the following weeks, I reclaimed my house, not just physically, but emotionally. I aired out the rooms, symbolically cleansing the space of their entitled energy. Grandpa Arthur's study, which they'd mostly used as a dumping ground for Chloe's discarded props, became my sanctuary again. I sat in his worn leather armchair, surrounded by his books, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of peace, and a sense of him, nodding in approval. Sarah, my lawyer, helped me draft and send a formal cease and desist letter regarding any further harassment or attempts to enter the property. It was a necessary formality, she said, to have on record. She also connected me with a reputable property management company. Within a month, Grandpa Arthur's house was rented to a quiet, respectful young couple, a doctor and a teacher, who paid their rent on time and actually appreciated the house's character. The steady income was a revelation. It wasn't a fortune, but it was mine, earned from an asset that was rightfully mine. The family drama, however, wasn't quite over. It just found new avenues. About 2 months after the eviction, I got a call from an unknown number. Curiosity got the better of me. It was Aunt Carol. Liam? Oh, thank goodness. I wasn't sure you'd pick up, she began, her voice a conspiratorial whisper. She'd initially tried to call and mediate on Chloe's behalf, full of platitudes about family forgiveness. I politely shut her down. This time, her tone was different, sharper. You will not believe what I've found out about Chloe, she said, practically buzzing with indignation. Turns out, Aunt Carol had lent Chloe $1,000 a few months back for her business, a loan that, surprise, surprise, was never repaid. Not only that, But a close friend of Aunt Carol's daughter had apparently been scammed out of several $100s by one of Chloe's much-hyped influencer masterclasses. The girl is a menace, Aunt Carol declared, now fully on team anti-Chloe, at least for the moment. She then proceeded to spill every sordid detail she'd managed to unearth through the family grapevine and her own network of gossips. Chloe hadn't just used my $5,000 for one supplier. She was drowning in debt, maxed out credit cards, unpaid bills from actual designers she tried to collaborate with, meaning get free stuff from, and a string of angry people who'd pre-ordered exclusive Chloe Co. merch that never materialized. My money had been a desperate, futile plug in a rapidly sinking ship. Chloe, predictably, didn't take her downfall quietly. She launched a tearful, heavily filtered video on her remaining social media platform, decrying her heartless, cruel brother who had thrown her and her struggling, innovative business out onto the street, making her and poor little Fifi homeless. It might have worked on some unsuspecting strangers, but the comment section quickly turned into a dumpster fire. People who'd been scammed by her, former collaborators she'd stiffed, even disgruntled neighbors from her old apartment building, all chimed in with their own stories. One particularly enterprising individual who'd lost money on her non-existent merch even contacted a local consumer rights blogger. A small but deeply embarrassing online article appeared, dissecting the rise and fall of an influencer wannabe. Chloe's carefully curated online persona was shredded. Then came the call I'd been subconsciously bracing for. My parents. Mom was leading the charge, her voice hysterical. Dad was a muted, defeated echo in the background. Liam, you have to help us. Mom shrieked. It's Chloe, the bank they called. The big reveal. Months ago, blinded by Chloe's grandiose promises, my parents had co-signed a massive business loan for her, over $50,000, using their own home equity as collateral. Now, with Chloe's empire revealed as a house of cards and her income streams non-existent, the bank was calling in the debt. They were facing default. You have to do something, Mom wailed. Sell Grandpa's house. Give Chloe the money. Let them move back in with you. We need to show a united front. We could lose our home, Liam. All because of her. Because of this mess. For a moment, the sheer scale of their folly, of Chloe's destructive entitlement, left me breathless. I could almost feel the old patterns trying to reassert themselves, the guilt, the pressure to fix it. I took a deep breath. Mom, I said, my voice surprisingly calm and steady. That was your financial decision to co-sign that loan, and it's Chloe's responsibility to manage her debts. Grandpa Arthur's house is not, and will never be, the family bailout fund. It's not the solution for choices that I didn't make. I paused, then added, I can send you the contact information for a reputable nonprofit credit counseling service. They might be able to help you figure out a plan. That's all I can offer. The silence on the other end was thick with disbelief, then rage, then a click as Mom slammed down the phone. Months have passed since that call. I'm doing well. The rental income from Grandpa's house is steady, and I've used some of it, along with my own savings, to start taking the first steps towards setting up my own small electrical contracting business. Dave, my old co-worker, has been an invaluable source of advice, an unofficial mentor. He clapped me on the back the other day and said, See, kid, sometimes you gotta burn a bridge to find a better path. I hear snippets about the family through Dave, who occasionally hears things from someone who knows Aunt Carol, a twisted little information pipeline. Chloe and Mark are apparently both working low-wage retail jobs, the glamour of their influencer dreams replaced by the harsh reality of polyester uniforms and demanding customers. They're still living with my parents, and the atmosphere there is reportedly explosive. My parents are stressed, trying to navigate the financial mess Chloe created, slowly chipping away at a mountain of debt. Sometimes, late at night, when I'm working on a wiring diagram for a new client or just enjoying the quiet of my own apartment, I wonder if they'll ever truly understand the damage they did. If Chloe will ever outgrow her destructive narcissism, if Mom will ever see past her blind favoritism, if Dad will ever find his voice. Then I look around at what I'm building for myself, The quiet satisfaction of honest work, the peace of mind that comes from self-respect. An unknown number flashes on my phone screen. It's a local area code, probably them, or Aunt Carol with another update. I consider it for a moment, then silence the call and put the phone face down. I don't need their validation anymore. I don't need their drama. I found my own value, and it has nothing to do with them. Some paths you have to walk alone, at least for a while. And for the first time, that feels okay. It feels like freedom,